Hello, and welcome to the Deal Breakdown Podcast, Episode 11. This is Wesley with Maiden Real Estate, your buyer specialist.
And my name is Phong Tran. I am from Tran Property Group. I am your seller specialist, Wes. And together, we are the Deal Breakdown.
We are back, everybody. We took a little time off for travel, for just personal things, busyness.
The boys are back in
The
town.
boys are certainly back in town, and we're happy to be back here, episode 11, especially after such a great episode 10 with James from DC Lending. I hope everybody was able to learn as much as, honestly, I was able to learn.
And based off a lot of the feedback, Wes, that was probably like our best episode. All of our clips got so much views. And I found out that was a very good idea to have guests on the podcast, just other perspectives.
Could not agree more. And not only was it the most viewed clips, and I still have people to this day texting me, asking me about some of the things that we went over on that podcast. So it's definitely had quite an impact on at least my sphere, people that I know, and the internet abound. And now, as you said, we got the band back together. So we are going to do something a little special for episode 11, and that is the mid-year market update. Both of us are going to talk a little bit about what we've seen in the market at large, anecdotes, what we personally have gone through to really encapsulate this first half of the year. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we predicted at the beginning of the year. Did it measure up? And then we're going to make predictions for the later half of the year. Essentially 3 parts to this and really go over that. And let's start with what we predicted at the beginning of the year and how the heck we did. If you want to take it away.
Yeah, I mean, this was probably like our very first episode, right? Episode 1, I think we predicted that the interest rates, from what I remember, were to fall, but not dramatically like we all hope, and especially what consumers want to hope. And I think at the beginning of the year, we're like right above 7% interest rate. And I think now, after checking it this morning, I think we're at like 6.7, 6.8. And so practically nothing has changed to us. And I guess what I want to ask you, you've obviously been selling a good amount of real estate this year. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of people lean more heavily on interest rates and that is dictating their buying? Or is it more of like, yes, interest rates play an effect, but the shock is over, that type of thing?
Dude, great question. I'm going to answer your question, then I'm going to expand a little bit. So to answer your question, I'm on the phones constantly. I'm talking to probably around 100 people a week, right? And so I hear the objections from people, not now, not now. Interest rates are certainly always going to be an objection. Honestly, though, I'm not getting that objection nearly as much as I was at the beginning of the year or last year. Certainly not last year.
But yeah, I remember, at one point, our scripts were designed to object. Interest rates are too high. I'm just going to wait until it drops.
Oh, yeah. And we still do that, right? We still get that, especially for people that were active in 2020, 2021, the golden years. Like James was saying, right? It was just like such a weird market. It was all refis or people were throwing money at houses. Now, I don't get a lot of people pushing back on interest rates. I get a lot of people, they push back on the uncertainty of the economy, the state of the nation. A lot of people are pushing back like, I just don't know what's going to happen next. And obviously, back to our interest rate topic here, you predicted, I think very aptly, that the interest rates would stay the same or shift slightly downwards. Average right now, like you said, 6.79, basically 6.8. By the way, with people buying points, that's not free. That
Correct,
is
yeah.
people bringing their interest rate. This is just average of what people are doing. And most people are buying their points down to that 6.79. So do take that into consideration. And it's just been ping ponging between 6.5 and 7. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, depending on the day.
Yeah, and I would agree. I talk to a lot of sellers. That's obviously, I'm the seller specialist. That's what I'm focusing on. And I'm not really getting the objection that I used to get where, that maybe they want to downsize. Maybe they want to switch the asset to a bigger house, but they're not willing to forego that 2, 3, even 4% interest rate upwards to 7%, which is today's economy. But you made a very good point. I recently just started getting a lot of, not necessarily backlash, but objections where people are saying, we have an idiot in the presidency. The world has gone to crap. Excuse my language. There's a lot of stuff happening across the seas. And you said it perfectly. It's created a lot of uncertainty. And when a buyer or consumer or even a seller is uncertain, Wes, why would they want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, or I'm sorry, for an asset if they're uncertain? Because we know as a buyer, it's an emotional decision. But if there's chaos in the world and they're not sure if the market is going to crash and yada, 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 and then obviously, that's going to play a huge role.
And I hope, we don't expect everybody to pay attention to the market as much as we do. This is what we do for a living. I pay attention to it pretty much every day as a buyer specialist. And even as a seller specialist, all sellers are buyers. Once they sell, they're looking to buy something. So you have to have the mindset of a buyer as well when you're selling. And there's always this saying of, when the economy is doing bad, interest rates go down. When you hear bad news, interest rates go down. When you hear good news, they usually go up. And so a lot of it has been, are there tariffs? Are there no tariffs? Is this big, beautiful bill going to pass? Is it not going to pass? What does that mean for rural communities? What does that mean for hospitals? What does that mean for my health insurance? So there's a lot of uncertainty around it. And so people are taking that minute to consider a lot more variables than I think beforehand. Before it was interest rate high, monthly payment high, bad, or whatever. Now it's, well, even if I can afford each month, what happens in 5 years if I need to sell? Am I screwed? Did the market crash?
Yeah, you made a very good point, because it's buying a house is a long-term investment. It's generational wealth for your family, for your future kids, their kids. And so it's just important to always weigh the benefits as well as the costs. Is it a good ROI to purchase now? And that's exactly what you said. There's just too big of a question mark, and it encompasses the entire global economy, our U.S. economy, and that is going to dictate the real estate market. And we can look, I'm looking at a graph right here. We started at 3.7 months of inventory. And real quick to the listeners out there, what does 3.7 months of inventory mean to you? It just means that, let's assume there's no other listings on the market. It would take roughly about 3.7 months for all of the homes within the Portland Metro to eventually sell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So beginning of the year started at 3.7. June data just came out about a few days ago. We're at 3.6. And we haven't seen these types of numbers since, I'm looking back in 23 and 24, we definitely didn't see these numbers.
There's something also to be said, and then we can move on to something else here in terms of predictions. There's something to be said about the time under tension for sellers and buyers. You see this inventory, and it is higher than we've seen probably in like 5 or 6 years, probably before 2020, to be quite frank, maybe even years before that. People made the decision not to sell with the higher interest rates. They don't want to lose the 2.5% or 3%. Enough time goes by, and then enough people are like, well, I can't hold on to this any longer. I tried to wait 2 years. I tried to wait 3 years, but the interest rates are staying where they are at. I have to sell, or I need to sell. Families in Florida or families in Oregon or whatever, and I got to make a move, and I've put it off long enough. I'll bite the bullet. And I think that we're seeing a lot of these sellers finally bite that bullet and hit the inventory. Something to talk about, and I'll switch gears a little bit here, but still focus in on our predictions. I don't know if we said the words outright, but we definitely talked a lot about, like, here, this is local, Multnomah County versus Washington County, Clackamas County, and Clark County. And I took a class 2 weeks ago, and it was a great class, and it talked a lot about demand and listings, not inventory on market, not months of inventory. He doesn't really believe in that as a measurement. Instead, he wants to see how many listings and how many pendings per month are happening. Because even if we have a large inventory, if it all gets gobbled up in 1 month, then it meant nothing. Yeah, so what he saw was April and May, and we'll talk a little bit more when we're talking anecdotally what we've seen. April and May here in the Portland metro area hit a huge spike of demand, a huge spike. The demand, the pendings actually exceeded listings for the first time in a while in April and May. Now we're in June and July, and it's switched back. It's switched back. It's gone more listings than pendings. So we're back to kind of what we've been seeing in 24 and early 25. He also showed that there has been, now, when we talk about the Portland Metro, you have to think we're talking millions of people, millions of people. So when I say 15,000 less, take it with a grain of salt because it's compared to millions, right? What we've seen though is Multnomah County has seen an exodus. It is much lower in demand. In Oregon, Clackamas County and Washington County have seen a spike, a huge spike. Clackamas being much more in demand than Washington County. I think a large part of it due to property taxes being so high in Multnomah County and amenities, social stigma, whatever it might be. Clackamas County has seen a huge surge. Same with Washington.
Yeah, and something with Clackamas County, yes, it has much cheaper property taxes, but it actually encompasses a very large area. You know, you get Boring, you get Sandy, Estacada, Colton, you get a lot of these rural places, and a lot of these people, you know, we're still in that age where people want that remote living, and so they're moving outside of downtown Portland more towards rural. One, a lot more acreage, and so it just makes sense that Clackamas is, you know, now top dog. Obviously, Washington, you get Beaverton, you get Hillsborough, Jollibees, like I ate not too long ago.
Yeah, you get the good stuff. Yeah, and a lot more people I think are considering, you know, I don't really I didn't move here till too long ago, but I grew up in the LA area. And in the LA area, it was just common sense that you lived in a commuter area. Everybody commuted. And as Portland is growing, because it's still growing, you were moving towards like this commuter mindset. And I think a lot more people are like, yeah, I'm okay with driving 15, 20, 30 minutes to work if I'm able to afford a home for my family. And that's what we're seeing.
I mean, you look at the major highways like I-5 and 205. Starting at 1 o'clock every afternoon, people are trying to go get across the river to Vancouver, and
Talk about 26, yeah.
it's terrible. It's so bad, and it's gotten worse year over year.
What a great segue to saying that Clark County, so Vancouver, Washington, Camas, Washougal, Ridgefield, all of these cities, that has seen the largest spike, eclipses Clackamas and Washington demand 100% because and since then prices have caught up because the demand's there, supply and demand. The demand is there that prices have certainly caught up, so it's slowed down. At the same time, you don't have state income tax. Clark County's property taxes are much lower, and people are willing to commute into Portland for work. And so that has seen the largest number in terms of demand. And so,
But something that a lot of these people who are eventually moved to Vancouver from Oregon is excise tax. I feel like I've met with two people from Vancouver. They're selling, obviously, and I told them about the 1.78 excise tax, and they were shocked. They're like, "That's another 10 grand." It's like, I still got to pay your commission. I got to pay closing costs. I'm like, hey man, it's just the nature of the game.
and then that goes into why real estate is always a long-term play. I had someone I talked to Monday, and they're like, you know, I want to buy a house. I just don't know where my residency is going to be. So does it make sense to buy something and then 3 months later sell it? And I told her, absolutely not. Because of the closing costs when you buy, the closing costs when you sell, including excise tax. Excise tax, I know I've said this before, the piper always is going to get paid. Now, if you live in Clark County versus Multnomah County for 5 years and your property taxes are $4,000 less per year for the same house, it makes total sense after 5 years because you've saved more than that $10,000 you'd pay in excise tax. Not even talking about state income taxes. Obviously, sales tax is in Washington. No sales tax here, but a lot of people anyway come over to Oregon to purchase stuff. So you could really play the game. And so I think we were pretty on point with the state of Portland itself and seeing a lot of people move out to these surrounding areas. So I think we were pretty much on point with that.
And I to predict what I
Yeah, let's move into predictions.
what I truly think will happen, I think rates will stay relatively the same. Yes, it's going to be cyclical. It's going to move up and down by 0.1, 0.2, whatever. But I think it's going to stay around this 6.75, 7% threshold. But if I'm being honest, I think the market has shifted. I think it's becoming more cold than what I personally would like. And, you know,
So,
because again, I'm stemming it based off of interest rates staying the same with the market being so uncertain. I mean, we have a president that, half the country doesn't like. And, if I'm basing it off of inventory and what I'm seeing in the market, obviously I don't sell too much homes like I used to, but I'm seeing that buyers are just very, very picky. They're extremely picking. I hold probably 8 listings right now, and obviously one will go, two will go, but then I accumulate more. But there's some of these listings, especially in downtown Portland, which we've mentioned in another episode, that frankly they're just sitting. And if I'm looking at this chart again, I base a lot of my thoughts and my expertise on statistics. And so if I'm looking at interest rates as well as the inventory chart, I feel like it is shifting. I mean, we're still in summer, but we haven't seen a 3.6 months of inventory since the beginning of the year, which is obviously dead winter at that time.
yeah, I could see that prediction certainly coming true. I think I have a little bit different of a perspective. I
More
think
optimism.
it's certainly more optimism. My prediction is interest rates will stay relatively the same, like you said. So I do agree with that. I think a great just happened essentially was the Fed was going to meet about a potential rate cut, and then they didn't. They didn't go through with it. And that's because all these numbers came out, right? The consumer indexes, the job number coming out, unemployment, everything like that. And so they decided, let's not cut rates. And it's going to ping pong up and down, up and down, up and down, depending on what's happening in the stock market, bond market, general economy at that day. So I do think that we're going to end the year in the high sixes. I think it's going to stay the same. A little bit more specific, I had a call with a good friend in California. His sister is looking to move here. And he said, hey, can you tell me about the Portland market? I'm like, absolutely. The Portland market is always special in that we are West Coast. We are the most affordable West Coast metro area. You've heard me say it, and I'm going to say it again and again. Seattle, San Jose, San Francisco, Los Angeles, these main hubs on the West Coast, we all know that the prices are very high. Here in Portland, the prices have not caught up. Our median price point is nowhere near what it is in those four cities I just mentioned. Oh, and San Diego, obviously.
I don't think it'll ever catch up because those large
It won't.
cities they draw a lot of like tech employment. Yeah, we have that with Nike and Intel and all these minor
Sure.
semiconductors, but I don't think we'll ever actually. I think we'll always be the most affordable city on the West Coast.
We certainly always will be. The predictions in 2035, our median price point's gonna be 1.1. I absolutely believe it. We always go through every 10 to 15 years. They say we go through a recession period. We're right at that moment, everybody. Since 2008, it's 10 to 15 years later. So yes, we're in the thick of it. The market always does come back. Unless we blow everything up. Now, yeah, different podcast. What I was telling my friend about the market is obviously that about the West Coast city. I told him to get a little bit more micro. The condo and townhome market is dying. Straight up told him it is a different because I also list properties and I meet with buyers and sellers of all types, and the condo and townhome market is dying mostly because of HOA fees. Absolutely. When you tack on PITI, principal interest, taxes, and insurance is also going up. It's kicking people out because of the interest rates. They don't meet the debt to income ratio. So the buyer demand is not as high. When you add in that HOA cost, I was telling him, let's say you are pre-approved for essentially $3,000 a month for your debt to income ratio. You can afford a $3,000 a month mortgage, and you find a home that's $2,500 a month, a condo. You would think, I can afford this. I can qualify for this. Then you find out there's a $600 a month HOA. That's $3,100 a month. You now do not qualify for that condo or townhome. So these HOA fees are pushing out a lot of people. They see that, I mean, I toured a Pearl District condo, $1,100 a month. No amenities, $1,100 a month. Maintenance, insurance. Whoop-de-doo.
And consumers, they see this. They see a lot. They see a lot of sellers selling their condo or townhome, but Portland is an older city. Would you agree in that? And so with these older condos and townhomes, they have special
which
assessments.
they're all coming due.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's come to the point where they're going to tack on, millions of dollars to fix the siding and the roof. And, with COVID, with these new, things that they have to purchase, it's just created such a dead towards condos and townhomes.
The average days on market for condos and townhomes are hundreds of days. They're in the triple digits. Now, for single family residences, I do think that there's always going to be a demand, and I actually think that we're going to see a lot more demand there because people are going to look at a $600,000 condo. They're going to be like, "What do I get for it? Not that much. I can move out to Clackamas County. I can move out to Clark County. I can move out to Washington County. I'll just drive 15 minutes to work or whatever, and I can afford a home with a yard, especially in Clark County. New construction we have a friend that works in it. It's massive. It is absurd how much they're building in Clark County. And so we're seeing a lot more people. I think that the condo market's going to die. There's something that's going to need to happen with, we had what do you call it? Rent restrictions and rent caps and all of these things. I certainly think that we need this city, unless they just are going to make this weird area where only the wealthy can afford to be in, which I mean, that exists obviously for the condo market. It's just going to die.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. And something to consider is like, I don't think baby boomers are now the biggest generation of purchasing. I think it's millennials. Yeah. And so these millennials, they no longer want to live in skyrise condos. They don't want to live in townhouses with no yard. They want to what? Start a family, have a baby. They're going to want, a traditional single family house. And so, yeah, I would definitely agree with you. Single family homes will always have the biggest draw.
There's that saying, plants are the new dogs are the new kids are the new dream. It's a lot of people, I mean, I have 2 dogs, you have 3. It's just kids, and yeah, millennials, we're in our 30s, and the kid conversation comes up, the growing the family conversation comes up. It used to be that you would buy a house younger, and you would buy a house and you would grow your family in that house. And millennials, they're just behind in terms of when they're having kids, but they're still having kids. And so yes, it's the condos and townhomes. I tell people, unless you like the lifestyle, this just doesn't make good sense as an investment. A home always will.
What I'm seeing a lot is, which is interesting, a lot of these older clients that I've helped in the past, like they're elderly people, they don't necessarily want to go to assisted living, but they don't need a large house. So I'm seeing some of them actually go towards condos and
Condos.
townhomes because
Hmm.
they like the idea of not having to do anything. But I don't think it is such a big enough difference to actually like revive the condo and
Yeah.
townhome market. I think you're right. Like I think the condo and townhome market needs to happen to really ignite it. And it's tough to say what that's.
What really needs to happen are the prices need to come down, and sellers that purchased it for, let's say, a condo, just as an analogy, let's say they purchased it for $500,000, so they believe that they need to get 550 or whatever the heck they need to get out of it. I purchased a home, I own a home, I'm supposed to sell this and make money is the idea, and that's just not the case. I had a client, somebody I know, and she purchased this townhome for more than we're selling it for. And that's because there's no freaking demand.
Oh yeah,
It's only worth what somebody will pay for it. I
yeah,
can tell you a number. You can
100%.
tell me a number. It doesn't matter until we get the offer.
I have a client who I had a listing for almost 14 months. It started at MRE. She purchased it for 580 at the peak of the market back in like mid 21 for 580, and the last price before we removed it from the market was 460. So she's gonna take a hit. But she was like, I can't, and she lives in Texas now. She's like, I can't afford paying a mortgage, and so we're gonna turn it into a rental or whatever. And so, yeah, it makes sense. But
HOA allows it.
exactly, it does. And so I think, 6 months from today, we'll have another video to see if our prediction
Mhm.
is accurate. Obviously, mine and Wes's prediction is rates are going to stay roughly the same. He thinks there's going to be an improvement of the market, obviously towards single family. I personally think things are going to get a little bit more cooler as we enter the colder seasons of the year. And so let's see who's right
Okay.
on this one.
Well, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I might have spoken a little too optimistically. I think that I looked at the numbers. It so I went to let's segue. We'll lock that in, sure. We'll lock that in just so we could talk about it and I could try to fight my way through it at the end of the year, make for a good podcast. Let's talk anecdotally what we have been experienced in the market. And I want to start this segment out with a few weeks ago, I went to a real estate conference in Michigan, and it's a great experience. I have the shirt on to prove it. So I went to not the same conference, but the same people in January, and then I went to it in June. So every 6 months, right? Beginning of the year, half of the way of the year. And these are the first two that I've ever been to. The one at the beginning of the year was more tactical and nitty gritty. And there seemed to be this air of, we can do this. Okay. Like, we got this. Double down on skills, double down on your work ethic, and you got this. Okay. Go to this one in June, and it was not that. It was not positive. It went from rainbows and sunshines in January, like, you got this, si se puede kind of shit, right? To it was like 85% about mental toughness, about, we understand, we look at all your markets, we look at everything, and everybody's doing shit, and we understand that it sucks. And they were like hardcore, like, you gotta double down now. You gotta put in more work than you've ever put in to make it. And just doubling down on, there's going to be so many agents that leave this industry in this next half of the year, which that's another prediction of mine. I think we're going to see some of the lowest numbers of real estate agents ever when we turn up in January. And it was just a total shift in mindset from January even. And so
It's like shifting from, oh, let's thrive,
let's
to,
thrive in this
okay,
market.
we actually need to just survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as survive. Like, they were still like, you can thrive.
Yeah.
It was just more hardcore. They were coming strong, and I could tell a lot of people were. I felt attacked, right? Like, I was like, holy crap, I have to sit down after this. I was sitting, I have to like go, oh my gosh. Now, so I've actually had the best year ever so far, and it's a lot of, I've been in the industry longer. I certainly have more skills. I know what the heck I'm doing more. People find my confidence in my ability to be more trustworthy. And at the same time, I know more of what to do to find people, right? One thing I do really want to touch on is I have set expectations more often in these last 6 months than I ever have. And that can be a skill thing that I've learned. It's just preparing people for certain things. One thing I have ingrained in my brain, it is my own little script that I tell everybody. And I've told this to my buyers, submitted 2 offers last week, and I told both of them the same exact thing. What is happening, and because I've competed, by the way, more than I've ever competed. Multiple offer scenarios is what I mean when I say competed. I'm competing against 2, 3, 4, sometimes 13 other offers. And you're like, what? The market's supposed to be cooling. Why are you multiple offers? Let's say, okay, yes, let's say you have 3 pieces of sushi, okay? Bear with me here. You have 3 pieces of sushi. Do you know who Jiro is in Japan? Okay, watch that documentary. It's amazing. He's considered the greatest sushi chef of all time. You have to book he has like 12 seats. He's in like a subway area station. His restaurant is in, and you have to book it out a year in advance. He is considered the greatest sushi chef of all time. Okay? He's very old. Let's say I put a piece of sushi from him in front of you. Okay. Let's go with a restaurant here, Yama Sushi or Bamboo Sushi. Bamboo Sushi is well known. I put a piece of bamboo sushi in front of you. Okay. And then I put a piece of Walmart sushi in front of you. Okay. And I say $10 for any piece of sushi here. Which one are you going to buy? The master. Yeah. You're going to buy the Jiro sushi for $10. You're going to be like, geez, oh my gosh, Walmart sushi, $10, what the heck? So is everybody else. Okay. It's all the same price, but that one is obviously a much better piece of sushi. So 5 people are going to bid on that sushi, and it's probably going to go above $10. Okay. Well, that sushi's gone now. Whoever paid the most, whoever had the best terms, bought that sushi. Now you have these other 2 pieces of sushi. And what I am finding right now in this market, our buyers are like, I know what $10 gets me. I saw it. I'm going to wait until that comes back up. So these other two pieces of sushi are going to sit there. Obviously, sushi is houses, right? So what's happening is if you see 3 homes at 500,000, everybody's going to bid on the one that has the most value. They're getting multiple offers, and then it goes away. Somebody buys it, and they don't want the other 2 houses because they want that other house again. Now,
It makes sense.
this seems like no shit, Sherlock, right? This has happened throughout time in the real estate market. It is way more now because everybody is so crunchy on the numbers that it's hardcore. And so I tell everybody what's happening is 100% of the buyers are fighting over 25% of the market. And that's why you see these homes that are sitting for so long, homes aren't selling, is because they are fighting over that 25%.
They're now the outlier. And it just goes back to what I said earlier. Just buyers they're so picky because of interest rates, everything going on. They want to make sure it's what they want.
And back to the Glover event, full circle here, and then I'll let you talk instead of me monologuing, is Jeff Glover came out first session, and he just straight up makes 15 predictions for the rest of this year. And I literally got goosebumps because he just came out swinging. And he said buyers are going to see more homes than ever before they put an offer in, and they're going to be pickier. Okay. Sellers, home values are going to go down because just like with that sushi, the other 2 pieces of sushi, they ain't worth $10. They got to go lower so they're instead of competing against the other $10 sushi, they're competing against the $8, the $6. So that $500,000 house, it needs to compete with the 450, the 400s for it to be the best of the bunch. So home values are going to go down. And then obviously predicted, I'm not going to go through all 15. He obviously predicted that we're going to see a huge attrition rate in the real estate agent.
I wonder, I wish I was there just to see all the agents' faces like shit. Like,
yeah, no,
that could have been me.
That started out 10 a.m. on Tuesday, first day, with that, just to set the tone. And people were like, all right, dog.
Jeff is, in my opinion, obviously I've never been coached by him, but I think his whole agency is like very top notch, in my opinion.
Number 1 agency in Michigan for 10 years. So they're doing something right. So yeah, I mean, anecdotally myself, I've been doing well. I think that's something that I've really been paying attention to is that 100% of the buyers are fighting over 25% of the market. That's something that I have seen anecdotally. I think that the other 75%, they need to figure it out. They need to lower their prices because there's not another buyer around every corner. There's another house for buyers around every corner. So sellers, you got to get your shit together.
And they're just going to wait until that one house pops up. But
yeah.
I mean, it just reminds me, I know you said 25-75, but it reminds me of the 80-20 Pareto's principle.
Yep.
The 80% of the buyers are fighting over 20% of only 20% of the houses. Yep. So that 80% of the houses are, you either reduce your price or you're not selling. Yeah. But yeah, that was a good episode 11, half year, 6-month check-in of the market. I feel like our predictions were pretty solid. And so we'll have to see, probably January is when we'll talk about.
We'll do January to talk about the last half of the year and then what we predict for the, 26. But hey, appreciate you tuning in. This is Westley, your buyer specialist, signing off.
And this is Phong Tran, your seller specialist, also signing off. And we're back at it, boys.
See you in episode 12.